My stepdaughter insulted me in front of my family, and when I confronted her, my husband snapped. She's not your daughter. Don't correct her. I just smiled. The next morning, I canceled her university payments, credit card, and car insurance. Hey, Reddit, grab some popcorn and enjoy this show. My stepdaughter disrespected me in front of the whole family, and my husband defended her. So I handed them both a hard reality check and watched them lose their minds. Name's Mabel R. Robinson, 45, female. For context, I'm in a committed relationship with Alex now, and he's been a steady, grounding presence in my life. But this story takes place when I was married to Darcy. Picture this. I'm hosting Sunday dinner at my house for my family. Mom, 2 brothers, their wives, the usual crew. I'd spent the afternoon cooking, making sure everything was perfect. My husband, Darcy, was laughing with my sister-in-law about some reality show. His daughter, Shay, this 23-year-old college senior I'd been bankrolling for 4 years, was glued to her phone like it was surgically attached. Classic move for her. The eye rolls, the sighs, the general vibe of someone who thought existing in the same room as us was doing us a favor. My mom, bless her, tried making conversation, asked she how her classes were going, got a one-word response without eye contact. Shea didn't even look up from whatever was so important on that screen. My mom, being the polite woman she raised me to be better than, tried again. What are you studying again, honey? That's when I spoke. She's in her senior year, majoring in communications, still figuring out what she wants to do after graduation. But she's got options. The temperature in the room dropped. She's head snapped up, her eyes locked onto me, with this look I'd seen probably 100 times, but always let slide because I was trying to play the long game. Build something that looked like a functional family. Stop acting like you know anything about my life, she said. Voice loud enough that everyone's forks stopped midair. You're not my mom. You're just some woman my dad married. There it was. 4 years of biting my tongue. 4 years of playing nice. 4 years of writing checks summed up in one sentence. Just some woman. My brothers froze. One of them actually choked on his water. My mom's face went from shock to angry in about 2 seconds flat. My sister-in-law looked like she wanted to disappear into the wall. But here's the thing that really got me. My husband's reaction wasn't the horror you'd expect from a parent whose kid just nuked a family dinner. It was more like, oh great, not in front of company. I sat there, didn't move, didn't react, just filed that comment away. The rest of dinner was about as comfortable as a colonoscopy. Everyone tried to pretend a bomb hadn't just detonated at the table, but you could feel it. The forced conversation, the awkward silences, the way people suddenly found their food fascinating. My brother Billy pulled me aside while we were cleaning up, whispered that Shay was out of line and asked if I was okay. I told him I was fine. He gave me this look that said he knew better, but wasn't going to push it. His wife, Lexi, made a point of hugging me extra long when they left. No words needed. The message was clear. They had my back. After everyone left, after we cleaned up in the kind of silence that makes your ears ring, I decided to address it. Not yelling, just have a calm conversation about basic human decency. I found Shay in her room, door open, still on her phone. Hey, can we talk about what happened at dinner? She didn't pause her show. About what? Oh, we're playing amnesia now. Cool. I kept my voice level. What you said was disrespectful. I'm not asking you to like me, but when my family's here, basic respect isn't optional. She actually laughed, then turned to look at me with this smirk. I don't owe you anything. You're not family. Before I could explain that respect isn't about biology, Darcy appeared in the doorway, and then he said the words that changed everything. She's not your daughter. Stop trying to discipline her. I turned to look at my husband, the man I'd married 4 years ago, the man who told me through tears how grateful he was that his daughter finally had stability, the man who said I was the best thing that ever happened to them. And there he was telling me to back off from the kid whose entire lifestyle I'd been funding. I smiled, the kind of smile that says message received loud and clear, the kind that should have warned them both that something just shifted permanently. I walked to my office, closed the door, and sat down at my desk. Darcy tried to follow, tried to explain, but I told him I needed space. He didn't push it, probably thought I'd cool off by morning and everything would reset to normal. He had no idea I was done playing games. Let me rewind and explain how I ended up in this situation, because I know what you're thinking. Why marry into that mess? I met Darcy 5 years ago at a fundraiser. I was 40, divorced 3 years, no kids. I'd spent my 20s and 30s building an accounting practice from nothing, working weekends, saving every dollar. My first marriage imploded because I was never home and he wanted a family yesterday. We split without too much drama. He remarried fast to someone with kids already. Me, I kept grinding. By 38, I had more money than I knew what to do with and nobody to share it with. The fundraiser was one of those networking things you attend because it's good for business. Then I saw Darcy working the check-in table. He had this energy, warm, genuine. We talked. He told me he was a single dad working as an office administrator at a medical clinic, doing everything he could to give his daughter a shot after his ex disappeared when the kid was 6. She moved across the country, sent maybe 4 child support checks total, then ghosted completely. No calls, no visits, just gone. I respected that hustle, a dad handling business without making excuses. We exchanged numbers, started dating. He never asked about my money, never seemed impressed by the car or the house. He was focused on his daughter, making sure any person in his life wouldn't be a deadbeat. Should have noticed he was focused on his daughter a little too much, but hindsight's perfect, and I was busy being optimistic. Shea was 18 when we met, quiet at first, polite enough when I was around, but you could tell she wasn't thrilled about her dad dating. Made sense, her mom bailed. Trust issues come with that territory. I figured time and consistency would fix it. I figured if I showed up reliably, treated her dad right, respected boundaries, she'd eventually come around. I was wrong, but I wouldn't figure that out for another 4 years. Darcy and I got married after 14 months of dating. We weren't kids anymore. We knew what we wanted. I wanted a family. He wanted security. Small wedding, just close people. Shea stood as a bridesmaid looking miserable in every single photo. I told myself it was normal teenager stuff. She'd adjust. After the wedding, they moved into my house. 5 bedrooms, good neighborhood, top-rated schools nearby. Shea got the master bedroom on the 2nd floor because I wanted her to feel at home. I paid off Darcy's car as a wedding gift. Started covering all household expenses because I could, and because that's what you do for family. Shea's senior year, I asked about her college plans. She showed me a list of state schools. Nothing crazy expensive. Her grades were solid. Not scholarship material, but good enough for most places. When she got accepted to her top choice, a university about 90 minutes away, I told her not to worry about tuition. I'd handle it. Darcy cried. Told me I was too generous. Told me Shea was lucky to have me. Shea actually hugged me and thanked me. I bought her a used car for graduation. Something reliable that wouldn't break down between campus and home. Helped her move into the dorms. Paid for an off-campus apartment sophomore year when she complained about roommates. Every semester tuition bill came. I paid it, no questions asked. You're probably wondering why I kept throwing money at a kid who barely acknowledged I existed. Fair question. Honest answer. I thought that's what you do. You show up. You provide. You prove through actions you're not going anywhere. I thought eventually she'd realize I was on her side. 4 years of marriage, 4 years of funding everything, 4 years of trying to be the mother figure she never had. And what did I get? Not even basic respect at my own dinner table. The night of that dinner, sitting in my office, I pulled up my bank records and did the math. Tuition payments, apartment rent, car insurance, phone bill, credit card I'd given her for emergencies that she used like a shopping pass, random expenses. She'd text Darcy about that somehow became my problem. The breakdown was brutal when I really looked at it. 18 grand per semester for tuition and fees, another 12 grand yearly for the apartment she insisted on getting sophomore year because dorm roommates were too loud. Car insurance ran me $2,000 annually because she was under 25. The phone bill was minimal, but added up over time. That credit card, though, that thing averaged around $800 monthly. Clothes, food, entertainment, random purchases she never thought twice about because it wasn't her money. Then there were the extras nobody talks about. The laptop that died junior year, replaced for $1,500. Textbooks every semester, 400 to 600 each time. The furniture for her apartment because it came empty. Kitchen supplies, bedding, decor, all of it on my dime. Spring break trips with friends where she'd need spending money. Summer programs she wanted to take for resume building. Add it all up, factor in 4 years of consistent spending, and you're looking at close to $4 million. Could have been more. I stopped counting at some point because I told myself it was an investment in her future in our family, close to $250,000 in 4 years. That's what I'd invested in this kid. And her response when I asked for basic respect, "You're not my mom, you're just some woman." Her father's response, "Stop trying to discipline her." I sat there looking at those numbers until my vision blurred. Then I opened my laptop and started making moves, and that's when things got interesting. Here's what nobody tells you about step families. They're only blended if everyone's actually trying. Otherwise, you're just some woman who married into an existing unit, and you'll never be anything more than a wallet with a pulse. Looking back, the warning signs were everywhere. I was just too busy trying to force a happy ending to see the story was heading somewhere else entirely. The first major red flag came about 8 months after the wedding. Shay came home for Thanksgiving break freshman year. I'd been looking forward to it, planned a nice dinner, grabbed her favorite dessert from that bakery across town she liked. She walked through the door, hugged her dad, looked right through me like I was a ghost, and went straight to her old room. Darcy made excuses. She's adjusting to college life. She's stressed about finals. She'll warm up eventually. I believed him because I wanted to. Thanksgiving at my mom's house that year. Shea spent the entire meal on her phone. When my mom politely suggested she might want to join the conversation, Shea rolled her eyes and said her friends were dealing with drama. My mom just smiled and changed the subject, but I saw the hurt. I mentioned it to Darcy on the drive home, told him Shea had been rude and maybe we should address phone etiquette at family gatherings. Darcy got defensive immediately. "She's an adult now. You need to stop trying to parent her." That became the pattern. Every time I tried to address behavior, my husband shut it down. Every time I suggested boundaries, I was overstepping. But when tuition was due, when the car needed maintenance, when Shay needed money for spring break, suddenly my opinion mattered a whole lot. Funny how that works. Second year of marriage, things escalated. Shay started bringing her boyfriend around. This kid was something special. Unemployed, dropped out of community college after 1 semester, spent his days gaming in her apartment on my dime, obviously since I was covering her rent. Kid would be sprawled on my couch, eating my food when I got home from work. Never offered to help with anything. Never said thank you. Just existed in my space like he owned it. I'd make dinner for everyone, and he'd critique it. Too spicy, not enough seasoning, wrong texture. Meanwhile, Shay would nod along, like his opinion mattered more than the person actually cooking and paying for everything. I asked Darcy if he was concerned about the relationship. His response, "At least she's happy," as if that was the only metric that mattered. Not whether the guy was using her, not whether he had any ambition. I tried a different angle. Mentioned that maybe Shea should be focusing on school and internships instead of playing house with some boy. Darcy accused me of being controlling. Said I was trying to run Shay's life. This from the man who called me in tears when Shay was failing calculus freshman year and needed a tutor. The boyfriend lasted 7 months. Shay came home crying one weekend because he'd cheated. I kept my mouth shut about how I'd seen it coming. Didn't gloat, just let Darcy handle it. But here's what stuck with me. Shay never came to me for advice, never asked my opinion. I was just the invisible woman in the background who paid bills. Third red flag, probably the biggest before the dinner incident. Last Christmas, we did gifts at our house. I'd gotten Shay a new laptop for school, a designer coat she'd been eyeing, some gift cards, expensive stuff, but I wanted her to feel thought of. She opened everything, said thanks while looking at her phone, and immediately showed her dad like I wasn't in the room. Then Darcy gave her a present, some cheap jewelry, and Shay got emotional about how meaningful it was. I'm not saying I needed a parade, but the message was pretty clear. I should have said something then. Should have had a serious conversation with Darcy about where this was heading, but I didn't. I swallowed it and told myself patience would pay off. That's what you do in a marriage, right? Give grace. Assume good intentions. Wait for people to meet you halfway. Except Shea never came halfway, and Darcy never required her to. My buddy Anton noticed it before I did. Anton's my best friend from college. He came over one Saturday to watch the game. Met Shay briefly after she left without saying bye. Anton looked at me and said, "Dude, that kid treats you like hired help." I defended it, said she was still adjusting, that these things take time. Anton just shook his head. How much time? 4 years? 5? At some point, you got to accept people are who they are. I told him he didn't understand blended families. He said maybe I didn't understand when I was being used. Turns out he was right, and I was just stubborn. By the time that Sunday dinner rolled around, I'd spent 4 years bending over backwards, funding someone else's kid, asking for nothing except basic human decency. And when I finally asked for it out loud, they both made it crystal clear where I stood. The funny part, I wasn't trying to replace her mom. Never wanted that. I just wanted to be treated with respect, like someone whose home she lived in and whose money she spent. That's it. So that night in my office, I made a decision. I was done bending, done waiting. If I wasn't real family, then I didn't owe her. Pretty straightforward when you think about it. And what I did next, they never saw it coming. That Sunday night, I didn't sleep. Just sat in my office reviewing paperwork, making lists, checking accounts. Darcy knocked a few times, asking if I was coming to bed, if we could talk. I told him I needed space. He eventually gave up. Around 3 in the morning, I pulled up the title to Shay's car, my name, sole owner. I'd planned to transfer it after graduation as a surprise gift, back when I thought we were building something together. Plans change. Next, I logged into the university's payment portal. I'd set up automatic payments years ago. Tuition, fees, housing, everything ran through my account. I could see her schedule, her grades, her meal plan balance. Kid had access to a college education most people drown in debt for, and she couldn't even fake gratitude. Check the apartment lease. My name as primary. Shay listed as resident. Legally speaking, I was responsible, which meant I could terminate. Her phone plan, my account. Credit card I'd given her for emergencies that she'd turned into her personal shopping fund, my account. Her as an authorized user. Car insurance, my policy. Every single thing that made her college life possible ran through me, and I'd been so focused on being the provider. But that comment at dinner and Darcy's response made me realize something. They didn't see any of this as generosity. They saw it as obligation. Like marrying Darcy's meant I'd signed up to fund Shay's lifestyle indefinitely while getting treated like garbage. Time to correct that misunderstanding. The sun came up. I heard Darcy moving around, getting ready for work. She's room silent. Kid never surfaced before 11 when she was home. I pulled out my phone and started making calls. First call was to my lawyer, Daniel. Sharp guy I'd used for my divorce. Doesn't waste time with unnecessary questions. I explained the situation, told him what I wanted to do. He asked if I was sure, warned me it would create problems. I told him I was aware and to proceed. He walked me through the legal angles. Everything was in my name. Nothing Shay had was legally hers. The car title, the lease, the accounts, all mine. I could revoke access to all of it without her permission. He recommended documenting everything in case things got messy. Save texts, keep receipts, have a paper trail showing you've been the sole financial provider. I told him I'd been keeping records without realizing it. Bank statements, payment confirmations, years of documentation proving I'd funded everything. He said that would cover me if anyone tried claiming I'd made promises or created some kind of legal obligation. Verbal agreements mean nothing without proof, and you've got proof of providing, not proof of promising forever. Second call was to the university's office. Took forever navigating menus before getting a real person. I explained I wanted to cancel automatic payments and withdraw financial support effective immediately. They tried to transfer me around. Mentioned financial aid, student loans. I said that was between them and the student. Hung up. Third call was to the dealership where I'd bought the car, explained I wanted to repossess a vehicle titled in my name. They gave me a number for a towing company that handles that kind of thing. Made the appointment for that afternoon. Fourth call was to the apartment management. Landlord was actually cool about it when I explained I wanted out of the lease. Said he'd appreciated having a reliable payer. Asked for 60 days notice. I offered 90 and to cover early termination costs. He agreed immediately. Fifth call was to my bank, removed Shay as authorized user on the credit card, canceled her card. 5 minutes. Done. Last call was to insurance. Removed her vehicle from my policy effective end of week. By 8 in the morning, I dismantled 4 years of support in under 2 hours. 4 years of funding. Someone who saw me as nothing but a checkbook erased before breakfast. Took less time than making pancakes. I walked out of my office. Darcy was in the kitchen, scrolling through his phone in his work clothes. He looked up. Sleep okay? Fine. Had some things to handle too. He studied my face, trying to figure out if I was still upset. Listen, about yesterday, Shay didn't mean it how it sounded. She was just being defensive. I poured coffee, didn't respond. And I probably shouldn't have said what I said either, Darcy continued. I was trying to keep things calm. You know how she gets, right? So, we're good. I looked at my husband. Really? Looked at him. 4 years of marriage, and I was finally seeing clearly. He wasn't trying to build a partnership. He was managing his daughter's feelings while keeping the money flowing. We're fine, I lied. Have a good day. He seemed relieved. Kissed my cheek, grabbed his stuff, left. He had no clue what was coming. I went back to my office and waited. This was going to be fun. The towing company showed up at 3 that afternoon. Shay's car sat in the driveway where she'd parked it Saturday. I met the driver outside, showed him the title, signed paperwork. He hooked it up and drove off. The whole thing took maybe 12 minutes. I went back inside. Shay was still asleep. Kid could hibernate through an earthquake. Around 5, I heard movement upstairs. Shower running, then silence, then footsteps. I was in the living room, reviewing some client files. She walked past me to the kitchen without acknowledgement. Standard operating procedure. Grabbed something from the fridge, started heading back upstairs. Then she must have glanced out the window because she froze. Where's my car? I didn't look up. Not sure. What do you mean, not sure? It was here this morning. I closed my laptop, made eye contact. Your car was here. My car, the one I bought, titled in my name. That car got towed. Her face went through about 6 emotions in 3 seconds. Confusion, disbelief, anger, panic, more anger. What are you talking about? Why would you tow my car? I stood up, kept my voice calm. It's not your car. Never was. I let you use it because I thought we were family. You made it real clear last night we're not, so I'm fixing that mistake. She pulled out her phone, started calling her dad. I let her. This was going to be entertaining. While she waited for Darcy to answer, she paced, looking at me like I'd lost my mind. Then Darcy picked up because she started talking fast about the car, about me being crazy, about needing help. She hung up, stared at me. Dad's leaving work. You're going to explain yourself. I'm just respecting the boundaries you set. You're not my daughter. I'm not your mom, so I'm not funding your lifestyle anymore. The panic was really hitting now. You can't just take my car. I need that for school. The car is mine. Feel free to buy your own. Buy it with what money? I shrugged. Not my problem. Talk to your real family about it. That landed. She tried changing tactics. Voice softer. Look, I'm sorry about what I said. I was having a bad day. I didn't mean it like that. Too late. She stared at me, then checked her phone. Probably the university portal because her face went white. Oh, this was the good part. Why does this say my enrollment's been withdrawn? Like I said, not funding your lifestyle anymore. You withdrew me from school? She was almost yelling. You can't do that. The semester already started. I can and I did. You should contact financial aid. See what options exist for students who need to fund themselves. I walked past her toward my office. She grabbed my arm. I stopped. Looked at her hand. She let go fast. What about my apartment? Her voice was shaking now. Lease terminates in 90 days. Gives you time to figure out other arrangements. Where am I supposed to go? Again, not my problem. You've got 2 parents. Work it out together. I went into my office, locked the door, could hear her outside calling someone, crying, panicking, music to my ears. Darcy got home 30 minutes later, heard him come in, heard Shay start explaining everything. Heard Darcy's voice getting louder as he processed what happened. Then he was at my office door, pounding. Mabel, we need to talk now. I opened the door, stood there, didn't invite him in. What did you do? I corrected a misunderstanding. Your daughter made it clear I'm not family. So I stopped treating her like family. You can't destroy her life because you got your feelings hurt. I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped paying for it. Darcy's face was cycling through emotions. Anger and fear fighting for dominance, because reality was setting in. He was starting to do the math, and the numbers weren't adding up in his favor. You're being cruel. No, I'm being practical. I invested 4 years and close to $250,000 into a kid who sees me as an ATM. That stops now. She can figure out the rest herself or with her real family, since I'm not that. Darcy stepped closer, lowered his voice, trying reason. Okay, you're upset. You have every right, but this is too far. She made a mistake. Be the bigger person. Been the bigger person for 4 years. I'm done. What about me? What about us? Good question. What about us? Because where I'm standing, you chose your daughter over me last night. You told me not to correct her. You made it clear whose side you're on. So now I'm making it clear where my money goes. And it doesn't go to people who disrespect me in my own house. He was quiet for a while. Then what now? Now you and Shay figure out her education and housing without my wallet. I'll keep paying the mortgage, utilities, regular household stuff, but her expenses, done. And us? We'll see. I closed the door, locked it again, let them figure it out. Somewhere behind that door, reality was hitting them both like a freight train. The next 2 weeks were chaos, pure, unfiltered chaos, and I watched it unfold from a comfortable distance. Shay tried every strategy in the book. First, she ignored me, assuming I'd cave. When that didn't work, she switched to tears. Full meltdown at the kitchen table about her ruined life. I made breakfast, ate it, went to work. Then came anger, yelling, slamming doors, calling me names. I just looked at her and said, "Finally, we agree on something. I'm not your mom." Darcy was stuck between managing his daughter's crisis and trying to fix things with me. He'd pull me aside, asking what it would take to reconsider. I'd ask what it would take for Shay to show basic respect. He'd say, "She still needs time." I'd remind him Shay's not a kid and that we had 4 years. 4 years of me showing up, providing, asking for nothing but decency. And when I finally asked for it out loud, they both shut me down. Anton came over about a week after everything went down, brought Chinese food, sat on my couch, looked at me. "So, I heard you finally grew a spine." I filled him in on everything. Anton grinned. "About time. That kid's been walking all over you since day one." Darcy doesn't see it that way. Your husband's too busy being scared you'll stop funding his comfortable life. Trust me, this is the wake-up call they both needed. The credit card situation surfaced about 5 days in. Shay had been using it freely, but when I canceled it and she couldn't make a purchase, she came home with Darcy and demanded I reinstate it. Said she needed it for gas and essentials. "Get a job," I told her. "I'm a full-time student." "Not anymore. You withdrew, remember?" That threw her off. She looked at Darcy. Darcy looked at me. I didn't blink. The moment when reality hits different. Turned out Shay had gone to the university after I canceled payment. Tried working something out with financial aid. They told her she could apply for loans, but processing would take time. She could either withdraw for the semester and reapply in the spring with aid in place, or come up with the money herself. Since option 2 wasn't happening, she withdrew, lost the entire semester. Darcy tried making it my fault. You're destroying her education over one comment. I'm not destroying anything, I'm just not paying for it. The car situation was even better. Shea needed transportation. Darcy's car became the shared vehicle, meaning he had to drive her around or she was stuck home. The apartment near campus was still good for another 11 weeks, but without a car and without classes, there was no point being there. So she was home all day, every day, in my house. I'd come home from work and they'd both be in the living room, clearly having been talking about me. They'd stop when I walked in. I'd nod, head to my office, close the door, let them scheme whatever they wanted. My mom called about 10 days after everything went down. She'd heard through my brother there was trouble, wanted to make sure I was okay. "I'm fine, Mom." "That girl was very rude to you, and you handled it." "Yeah, good." She paused. "I didn't raise you to be a doormat. You stood up for yourself. That takes guts." "Thanks. But make sure you're doing this for the right reasons, not just anger. Make sure it's about principle." "It is." "Then I'm proud of you." Meanwhile, Shay's friends started getting involved. She'd been texting them about everything. Because Darcy mentioned one night that her friends thought I was being controlling, taking away her independence to punish her for speaking her mind. I laughed. She doesn't have independence. She has my money. Big difference. She wants independence? Great. Get loans, get a job, pay her own way. That's independence. What she had before was dependence pretending to be freedom. She had no response. Can't argue with facts. The joint account took her another few days to discover. We'd had separate accounts plus one joint for household expenses. I contributed most of the money since I made significantly more. Darcy used it for groceries, household items, sometimes personal stuff. When the debit card declined, he came home confused, logged in online, saw I'd transferred most of the balance out, and closed the account. What is this? Restructuring our finances makes more sense to keep things separate. We're married. Yeah, and you made it clear your daughter comes first, so I'm adjusting. I'll still cover mortgage, utilities, basics, but the free spending days are over. His face went pale. You're punishing me now, too. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm being smart about where my money goes. You backed her play. You told me not to correct her, not to expect respect. Fine, but I'm not funding people who don't respect me. He stood there holding his phone, looking lost. This isn't who I married. Funny, I was thinking the same about you. Turns out consequences are uncomfortable for everyone involved. 5 weeks after that dinner, things hadn't improved. They just settled into a new reality, a colder one. Shay had moved back full-time since the apartment, and classes were pointless now. She'd gotten a job at a clothing store, something she'd complained about for years, because it was beneath her. Turns out, when you actually need money, nothing's beneath you. She avoided me completely, stayed in her room most of the time. When we were in the same space, she acted like I was invisible. Darcy was having his own crisis. The realization that his comfortable life was now conditional on his behavior hit hard. He'd tried multiple times to convince me to reconsider helping Shay, framing it as doing it for the marriage. Each time I reminded him what he said that night. Those words haunted him. The first paycheck from the clothing store was a reality check for Shay. She came home frustrated, complained about standing for 8 hours, dealing with entitled customers, getting paid minimum wage. I was in the kitchen making dinner when she vented to Darcy. "Welcome to how most people live," I said without looking up. She glared at me, didn't respond, but something shifted in her expression. Maybe the first crack in the entitlement armor. One evening, about 6 weeks after everything went down, Darcy asked me to sit down. Said we needed to really talk. I agreed. Sat across from him at the table. Waited. "I made a mistake," he said. "Which one, that night?" "How I handled it." He looked at his hands. "I should have backed you up. Should have told Shay she was wrong. Instead, I made you the problem." "Yeah, you did." "I was trying to keep peace, smooth things over, keep everyone happy." "You can't keep everyone happy when someone's being disrespectful. You pick a side. You picked hers." He nodded, started crying. "I didn't think you'd actually go through with it, taking everything away. I thought you were just upset." "That's the problem. You thought I was bluffing. You thought I needed you more than you needed me. Wrong on both counts." "Do you still love me?" The question caught me off guard. I thought about it. "I don't know. I know I'm not the same person. You changed something when you chose her over me. I'm just figuring out what's worth keeping." "What would it take to fix this?" "It would take your daughter apologizing for real. Not because she's desperate, because she actually gets what she did wrong and why it matters." He wiped his eyes. "And if she does? Then we'll see. But Darcy, I'm not going back to how things were. The free ride's over. Shay wants to finish school. She figures out loans, gets a better job, earns it. I'm not going back to being an ATM with a pulse." "That's fair. And you and me," I continued. "We need to figure out if we're actually partners, or if you just married a solution to your problems. Because right now, I honestly don't know which it is." He didn't have an answer. 3 days later, Shea knocked on my office door. She sat across from my desk, didn't talk for a while. Just sat there looking uncomfortable. "Finally ready to have an adult conversation?" I asked. "I'm sorry," she finally said, "for what I said, for how I treated you the past 4 years." I leaned back. "What changed? Having a job? Having to work for money?" "Having my manager critique everything I do. Having customers treat me like dirt. Having to actually struggle." She paused. "I didn't appreciate what you did. I saw it as something you were supposed to do." Silence. "Here's the thing," I said. "I never needed you to love me. Never needed you to see me as a mother. I just needed you to treat me like someone who deserved basic respect for showing up and supporting you. That's all. The bar was on the ground." "I know. So where do we go from here?" She shrugged. "I'm figuring out financial aid for next semester. My manager says I can go full-time over winter. Maybe save enough for a used car. Maybe take a year off, work, save, get my head straight." "That sounds like a solid plan." She nodded. "For what it's worth, I really am sorry." "Apology accepted, but trust gets earned back slowly. So, we'll see." She stood, started to leave, turned at the door. Thank you for everything you did. I should have said that 4 years ago. After she left, I sat there thinking, was one conversation enough to erase 4 years of being treated like an outsider? No, but it was a start. Darcy tried rebuilding us. Date nights, actual conversations, asking about my day instead of updating me on Shay's drama. It was slow, but he was trying. The money situation stayed how I'd said it. Shay was on her own. She ended up taking spring semester off, working full-time, saving, applied for aid for next fall, got approved for enough to cover most tuition. She'd need loans for the rest, but that was on her. She bought a used car in April, paid for with her own money. She was actually proud. Showed me when she drove it home. I congratulated her. Shay and I aren't close. Probably never will be. But there's respect now that didn't exist before. It's not a mother-daughter relationship, but it's functional, civil, sometimes almost friendly. People think because you're calm, because you don't make scenes, that you're weak, that you'll never draw a line. I'm not a backup plan. I'm a woman who built something and tried sharing it with people I thought were family. When they made it clear I wasn't family, I made it clear they weren't entitled to what I'd built. Pretty straightforward. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up.